The following podcast is brought to you by Pro Wrestling Connect, Australia's newest choice for event management and brand development specialising in pro wrestling.
And now, the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. Watch global. Support local. It's the B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The moves.
B plus.
Check it out! Here we go! You wanna mess with us? 'Cause we're steady on the ground.
Alright, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, welcome to another B Plus podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday, you know what that means. It's Aussie Grapps Day. It's our favourite day here on the B Plus podcast. It's a day where we like to take a look at everything happening in the world of Australian professional wrestling, everything with an asterisk, as always, because it's next to impossible to get to absolutely everything, but we do our best to cover the main stories in a timely fashion as much as we can. We also like to sit down and talk to an Aussie grappler or grappler-adjacent person. This week, I'm not speaking to an Aussie at all. I'm speaking to a Dutch woman who lives and wrestles in New Zealand. Lily Fay. She is the Valley Girl of New Zealand professional wrestling, the future of New Zealand women's wrestling, and you'll get to hear that chat shortly. But before I get to that wonderful, wonderful chat that we had, it's time to take a look at this week in Aussie Grapps news. Starting things off overseas, things are heating up for our Aussies in NXT. Bronson Reed, of course, formerly known as Jonah Rock here on our shores, just took place in the NXT Breakout Tournament. He was unsuccessful, and he was giving a promo about the lack of success in that tournament when he was approached by Shane Haste, of course, formerly a member of the Mighty. The Mighty is kind of, separated now with Mikey Nichols back here in Australia, but Shane Haste is still there at NXT, and he sort of stepped up to Bronson Reed, who challenged him to a match, and so it looks like we're going to get Shane Haste versus Bronson Reed in the near future on NXT. Now, as my friends on the Turnbuckle said earlier this week, I think it was Brent, said that he's very patriotic when it comes to wrestling. I'm not really patriotic when it comes to anything, to be honest with you, but I will say this. If NXT is going live against AEW and NXT has Jonah Rock matches, I may just watch NXT first. As much as I am excited about the AEW product, I would have to give that first point of watching, I suppose, to NXT if they're going to feature our guys. And they have a lot of our guys. AEW, as Brent pointed out, have none of our guys at the moment. So AEW, if you want the Aussie viewers, sign the Aussie talent. Speaking of Aussie talent overseas in the big companies, Buddy Murphy main evented SmackDown this week with Daniel Bryan. Fantastic stuff. Buddy Murphy just killing it. Obviously, the match with Roman Reigns last week. Now a match with Daniel Bryan. The internet is talking. The secret is out. Hashtag, as we know, the secret, he's no longer the best kept secret. The secret is definitely out at this point, and people are looking, which is fantastic. Over in Japan, Avery is doing amazing things in the Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix. We talked about it last week. It's basically the G1 for women, and Avery's doing a great job. She's she's picked up some victories. She's just, from everything I'm seeing online, from the social media presence and everything, it looks like she's doing a wonderful job over there. I actually haven't gotten a chance to check out Stardom World as of yet, but Stardom World is something you can get to. I think it's about $8 a month Australian, and you'll get to see all the matches Avery is doing as part of the Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix. Get around it, because the more Australian subscriptions they see come in, you got to assume the more likely they are to look at more Australian talent. So definitely get around Stardom World. Looking more locally, but still talking about international names here, Jake the Snake Roberts has announced a tour, spoken word, storytelling tour, as they do with the podcasts and everything, coming over here in February. He's going to hit Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Canberra, Sydney, and Brisbane, the most thorough of any of these speaking tours. So hats off to the promoters that are putting this one on, because it's going to every city. It is not just hitting Melbourne and Sydney like some of the others have in the past, which, that may mean that they take a hit financially. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a reason why people like Destroy All Lines avoid other cities and stick to just Melbourne and Sydney. I'm guessing that's where the money is. But Jake the Snake Roberts is going to come down in February and hit every major city in the country. Well, most of the major cities in the country. So that's fantastic news for Jake the Snake Roberts fans, or fans of just hearing crazy wrestling stories. Now, having a look at actual local action, Carter Deems last week won the Nui Pro Rumble. Of course, it was Quack Week. We had Mike Quackenbush here for 2 shows. He was took part in Newcastle Pro Wrestling. He also took part in the PWA Green Label show, Quack to the Future. And wonderful effort from everyone in these shows. It really felt like everyone was stepping up. And after a week training with Quack, everyone was clearly feeling the vibe, feeling the buzz, and put on fantastic performances. If you don't have OvoPlay yet, go get OvoPlay and watch these 2 shows. What are you waiting for? It's like $6 for a week, and you're gonna get next week's Break Their Backs and Make Them Rumble if you buy it tomorrow as well. So it's definitely worth the $6 for the week. You can go back and watch these shows, or $10 a month. There's no reason not to be on OvoPlay, to be honest with you. They're putting out the best live wrestling content you can get in Australia. It's wonderful, wonderful stuff. So definitely get around that if you can. But yeah, Carter Deems won that Nui Pro Rumble, which means he's going to get a shot at Matt Rogers' Newcastle Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. This will be his 3rd attempt at going for the gold, I am informed. He's got unresolved issues with Matt Rogers. Their last match ended in a referee stoppage. And he's also cashed in, or threw down his gauntlet against Jackson Kelly, but was unsuccessful. So it's going to be his 3rd attempt. The crowd seem like they're behind him. Carter Deems heading. We don't know when the match is going to take place, but we do know it's a lock. It's going to happen. Carter Deems versus Matt Rogers for the Nui Pro Championship, since he won the Nui Pro Rumble. And honestly, he was the right guy. I said it on Twitter. I was like, right guy, great match. Looking forward to seeing where this goes, and hopefully they pull the trigger on a Carter Deems title run. I think that could be very exciting. And Carter Deems is probably not long for Australia. I imagine Japan might come calling soon. We know he's done some work with the Fale Dojo. We know that the New Japan, Michael Craven, when he was out here, was talking about the Babes. He's a big fan of the Babes. So, it's possible that could be on the cards. Who knows? But definitely, I think now's the time to pull the trigger on a Carter Deems title run. Moving on, we got Xena and Nick Berry. This one popped up on my newsfeed the other day, and I got very confused. Nick Berry is challenging for the FWA women's title against Xena. I guess, we know that a lot of titles a lot of companies in Australia are moving more towards intergender, not shying away from it, not being afraid of just letting the girls mix it up with the guys. And I love that. I'm a big fan of that. In PWA, of course, the women's title is being reconfigured now. With the title that Jessica Troy has, the PWWA title, can be challenged for by anyone. And it looks like they're doing the same thing here. It wasn't really made explicit in any promo material. All that happened was Xena was looking for a challenge. So she tweeted to she used Twitter, I believe, to reach out to the authority figures, Frankie B and 5-Star Flash, and ultimately was given Nick Berry, which is fantastic. It's going to be a great match. Xena versus Nick Berry. I'm very much looking forward to it, but it just threw me at first seeing that Nick Berry challenging for the FWA women's title. It was just a little strange as a visual. Meanwhile, on television, Maddie Wahlberg. We've talked a lot about Maddie Wahlberg lately. Maddie Wahlberg is on this current season of Survivor Champions vs. Contenders. Well, he was on this season of Champions vs. Contenders because, spoiler alert, he got eliminated from Survivor. The tribe has spoken. Maddie Wahlberg has gone home. You can listen to our interview that we did with Maddie Wahlberg on our Survivor bonus episode that we did. We've done a couple of those where we're a little bit behind at the moment, but just because scheduling between me and the other guys who watch it, we haven't had a chance to recap the last couple of weeks, but we will catch up, of course, in talking Survivor for those of you that are fans. Definitely enjoying this season. It's been a lot of fun, and watching Maddie Wahlberg take part in those challenges. Can't help but think that he's right. If he had gotten to merge, he would have been a force to be reckoned with, but unfortunately, he didn't make it to merge because it was just bad luck. It was just bad luck. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't make any wrong moves from what we could see from the edit. It was literally just a matter of Harry got lucky, found another idol, and so he's the last wrestler standing is Harry Avalon, old mate Harry Avalon from EPW. So we got to, as a wrestling community now, we got to switch tactic. We're not pulling for Maddie Wahlberg like we were. Harry has become one of the most interesting players in the game, the dirtiest player in the game, even, you could say. And so we're pulling for Harry Avalon now. But Maddie Wahlberg, that's not the only news we have about Maddie Wahlberg this week. As is tradition with Maddie Wahlberg, there's always a lot to talk about. He's making moves in the wrestling world, in the Survivor world, in the TV world. He was on some show. It was the Celebrity Name Game. I went and watched this show and I was like, man, Australian television is trash. Sorry, Maddie. I'm not a fan of Australian television. And this Celebrity Name Game, Rove was hosting, which was nice. I haven't seen Rove in a long time. He was guest hosting it. And I know it was just like a silly little, game show where they had to name things, and he was good at it, man. Is there anything Matty Wahlberg's not good at? Is there anything he's not good at? They won $10,000 for their team. It was crazy. Just Matty Wahlberg killing it everywhere he goes. And it's working, obviously, because you see his social media account just rising and rising and rising. He's got more Instagram followers by the day. So, the experiment of getting himself onto national television has clearly worked wonders. You got to hope it's going to translate to new faces at wrestling shows, especially this coming weekend. It's been announced, Matty Wahlberg at the Green Label show, there was a promo package that played. He is aware that they're going to have an international guest for the Rumble, and he figured out who it was, and he challenged him. TJP versus Matty Wahlberg. We're going to get Matty Wahlberg versus the former Cruiserweight champion TJ Perkins. Matty Wahlberg at the top of his game, top of his promo game, top of his wrestling game, top of his Survivor game, top of his TV game, top of his stardom game, his rising star. And you got to imagine he's going to ride that wave of momentum all the way into the Coliseum tournament. And I got to pick Matty here. Matty going over TJP is that may sound controversial. That may be a hot take, but I really think that Matty's going to ride this wave of momentum through the Coliseum tournament. I'm looking forward to Matty versus TJP at the Break Their Backs Rumble. I cannot wait for this match. And TJP, he's got some crazy matches coming out. He's also got Damian Slater in EPW at Hell or High Water on the same weekend. And Damian Slater released a promo video this week looking at their history. And it's one of those sit down, black background, look at the camera and talk about the history I have with this guy and talk about why it means so much to me to win this match. And Damian Slater fucking nailed this promo. Like, if I had a promo of the week, it'd go to this guy. Like, this Damian Slater's promo against TJP was fantastic. Get around it, check it out on the EPW Facebook if you can. On the Twitter, I think it shared it as well. And Damian Slater, I love his YouTube series he does where he's teaching wrestling and he's talking about, how to prepare for wrestling school, how to prepare your body, all these sorts of things, going through wrestling drills and all that sort of stuff. Damian Slater is a highly entertaining individual. He's one of the best wrestlers we have, one of the best pure grapplers that we have. And seeing him go up against TJP, it's a dream match. It's an absolute dream match, especially given their history, especially given the Cruiserweight Classic connection. Definitely check out this promo, though, because this promo may be the best promo I've ever seen from Damian Slater. The production values, just the way the music is, and it's very simple, obviously, but it's one of those promos that just captivates your attention, much like the Cody Rhodes AEW Road 2 promos or the Matty Wahlberg sitting on the porch talking about Jimmy Havoc promo. Like these simple 2-camera shot, it's brilliant. Definitely check it out. Damian Slater versus TJP coming up next week. Matty versus TJP coming up next week. Big weekend in Australian wrestling next weekend, but we'll talk about that next week. First, let's talk to Lily Faye, and then I will hit you up after the interview with what's happening this weekend near you.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Grapps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, OUTBREAK Nutrition. OUTBREAK Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at OUTBREAK Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OutbreakNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. Plus. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OUTBREAKNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. All right, joining me at this time by the magic of the internet, all the way from New Zealand, she is the future of New Zealand women's wrestling, the Valley Girl of New Zealand Pro Wrestling. OMG, like totally. It's Lily Faye. How are you, Lily Faye?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am well. People may notice immediately. First thing I notice when you say hello is you don't sound like a New Zealander.
That's because I'm not. I'm not. I live in New Zealand, but I'm not from New Zealand.
Right. So the accent. Are you American?
No.
No.
I'm actually Dutch.
You sound American.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Because I don't know. Like I when I heard the accent at first, like in promos and things, I thought it's the character because it sounds like an American accent to me.
Yeah, that's what we did. We ran with it.
Yeah, because I guess I've never met another Dutch person, so I've never heard a Dutch accent before.
Yeah, it's like there's not a lot of famous Dutch people, I guess.
No, I can't think of a single one.
Yeah, no, for a Dutch person, I actually do sound quite American. Like I get it a lot, and if it's not American, it's Canadian.
Yeah, well, that would have been my second guess was Canadian. Yeah, that's crazy. So Dutch, and so when did you move to New Zealand?
Oh my goodness, 2005. I was 15 when I moved to New Zealand, and
right.
Yeah, I've been back and forth a little bit. Like I went back to the Netherlands to study for a while, and then I came back to New Zealand in 2013, and I just haven't gone back since. Besides holidays.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. So would you consider yourself a New Zealander, though, at this point?
Well, I'm not a citizen, but New Zealand is home. Yeah, it's definitely home.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's where you've started your wrestling career, which is what we're here to talk about. So I guess what I'd want to do first off is rewind to your first memory of becoming a fan of wrestling. What brought you into the wonderful, wacky world of professional wrestling?
Oh, my husband. Now husband, then boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah, no, he...
Right, so one of those classic stories you started watching for a boy.
Kind of. We were dating. And this is literally just because in the Netherlands, professional wrestling is not really a thing. So I never even knew that it really existed. But my husband and I and boyfriend were dating, and he's been obsessed with wrestling for pretty much his entire life. And I think after a while he felt confident enough to take me to his friend's place when they were watching NXT TakeOver. Where was it? NXT TakeOver?
No, it was Money in the Bank.
No, yeah. It was Money in the Bank, actually. It was Kevin Owens versus John Cena. That's why I thought it was NXT, because it was back in the day when he was still in NXT.
Right.
It was, Kevin Owens versus John Cena, and I was watching it and I was like, this is actually really cool. Yeah. Like, I got way too into it way too quickly.
Yeah. So you're kind of a recent convert then, because that would have been, about 5 years ago, maybe? 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 to 5 years ago.
Yeah. Because Kevin Owens and John Cena, that was like right when he came up from NXT.
Yes. Yeah, I think he was still NXT champion. Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah, amazing. And so it was sort of love at first sight. Like you fell straight in love with wrestling, and you were like, "This is everything."
Yes, pretty much. It's we started off with kind of the WWE type thing, and then fell in love with. I fell in love with New Japan when I got introduced to that, because I think for Michael it would have probably obviously been the dream. Oh my goodness, this girl I likes wrestling. Let me just show her. A whole new world kind of thing,
Yeah.
So, he's...
Yeah, so once you were into it, the floodgates opened and he could show you everything.
But, and then
Nice.
WWE came to New Zealand, and it was a match between Sasha Banks and Charlotte. And I was tweeting about it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and I wish I could do this. And then Candy Lee, Leilani, she actually tweeted and she was like, oh, you know that you can actually do it here in New Zealand. And I was like, what? So then I found out you could train, and then the ball just started rolling from there. Really
Nice. So good old Candy just following all the hashtags, and so she reached out to you. So you guys didn't know each other at that point?
no.
Yeah. And so she just sent you a tweet and was like, "You can train in New Zealand." That's amazing. And so so is that when you decided, like when you got that notification, and this stranger is tweeting you, "You can train in New Zealand." Is that when you decided, I'm going to throw myself at the ground and learn how to do this?
Well, yeah, like I had a tryout with IPW, and
Right.
I absolutely loved it. Like, they made us do like a bunch of stuff, like heaps of rolls and some bumps and lots of squats and that kind of stuff. And I couldn't move for 3 days, but I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Then because back then, Melody, our little daughter, she was quite small, and the IPW training facility is actually an hour and a half from where I live. I only managed to go maybe once a week for a little while, and then I had to kind of pull back from it because I was just like, it's not feasible. But then PWE started doing trainings in Hamilton, which is where I live, and then we started training hardcore. And this is probably about 2.5 years ago. And then from there on, like I just train more and more and more. PWE doesn't really do trainings anymore, but I do. I go and back and train with IPW now on the weekends.
Nice. So now that Melody's getting a little bit older, it's easier to do the travel.
Yes, it's much easier because she kind of understands it, and even when I have wrestling shows and stuff, sometimes she comes along, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you started training then a little bit later in life. Obviously, you discovered wrestling more recently, and so you sort of started training a little later. Did that present like unique challenges? And like being a mother already, other than just the travel, did it present like unique challenges to you at all?
Well, besides the fact that I just feel old all the time.
Yeah, which is one that because I started training in Sydney when I was 25.
Yeah,
and I was like, I am the oldest person here, and it's very uncomfortable and strange.
Yeah. Well, definitely like being a rookie, like because I'm 27 now, and I started training a couple of years ago. Like I would have been 25 just like you. It's you definitely feel old when there's all like 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and you're like, and then you start talking about your children, and it's suddenly like, oh gosh. Yeah, but it's also quite nice because like in the locker room and that kind of stuff, like I always kind of feel a bit momish towards all the like, you know, all the guys and the chicks there. I always make sure that they're okay and that kind of stuff. it's nice because it kind of translates a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That taking on that caring role, which is, you know, you can be sort of a leader in the locker room there. How far along did it take before you had your debut match?
Oh, a good year and a half. Yeah, I only debuted in September last year.
Right, and that was with PWE?
I actually debuted at Hughes Academy. They called me up for a title match, and that was like my official debut. And then from there on, like suddenly I got bookings back and forth from lots of places, and I've kind of like been doing little bits here and there. And I can easily say I've done almost every company in New Zealand except for was it UCW, SPW, and IPW. I've worked every other one in like the year that I've been.
See, I'm still sort of getting my head around New Zealand pro wrestling because there's a lot more happening there than we realize. But like obviously the easy one for us is SPW because they have the whole on-demand service. It's very easy to get into. They're even on like Progress's on-demand service and all the others as well. So it's easy to get into them. But there's like a whole world happening over there, and you're involved in pretty much all of it.
Well, I wouldn't say all of it, but quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, like just from following your social media, I've discovered Asylum Pro Wrestling, Capital Pro Wrestling, PWE, like all these things that I never knew. And like I got to your social media through Candy Lee. And so that's how it sort of opened up the world of New Zealand pro wrestling. I was just like, oh wow, there's a lot more going on over there than I realized.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, there's heaps going on, and it's definitely growing as well. It's actually really like quite an exciting time to be part of New Zealand wrestling. Like it's similar as it's obviously not the same level as Australian wrestling because obviously Australia is way bigger and there's way more people involved. But it's kind of on the rise. It's becoming more popular. It's kind of finding its feet in how to deal with new like social media age and all that kind of stuff. It's an exciting time to be part of New Zealand wrestling, and I'm actually like really excited to see what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is something that you're really good at. That you mentioned the social media game and finding your feet in this new world of social media and stuff with wrestling. I find your social media to be very enjoyable. Partly, I mean, first let's talk about the Valley Girl character, right?
Yeah.
And the promo videos and all that sort of stuff. Where did the Valley Girl character come from? Because it's amazing.
Oh, it kind of became a spoof because as we were practicing, I would just get this heel voice, and my voice would just be that annoying, like, oh my god, like totally, and the people would just be like, shut up. I'm like, these buttons that I'm pushing right now are amazing. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna run with it.
That's amazing. So is it like it's like a Paris Hilton cross Mean Girls cross like what was it? Literally those girls from The Hills. Was that the name of the show? Or
yeah, The Hills. Think like Clueless, like that kind of, yeah. But definitely like the Mean Girls vibe. It's the early 2000s, like almost like Valley Girl, like that Beverly Hills.
Because it's definitely it's one of those things where like when I hear like your promos and stuff, and I mean this as an absolute compliment, right? Like the same way when you're, I mean, obviously Miz is a face now, but when Miz was doing his thing when he's at his peak, and it's just like, can someone please punch this guy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're cutting your promos, like the one that you did to Tali in the hot tub, there, I'm just like, can someone punch her? Can someone do this, please? And like that's the goal, right?
Exactly. That's my goal, is to make people just hate me, so that when someone else beats me, they'll love them for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, you're so good at it. You're so good at it. And I enjoyed, the one I really enjoyed and I want to see more of is the one where you were like, I don't normally do these vloggy videos, but I have to tell you this story. And that video, I just love that video so much. And I want more of those.
Yes, I love it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, I'm definitely like, cutting promos is one of my favorite parts. Because obviously, I've only been around for a shortish amount of time, my in-ring obviously still is constantly getting work, and it's something I'm heavily working on. But the drama, the theater kind of stuff is the stuff that I come with, that I'm like, hey, I used to be that theater kid in high school, and I used to do the musical theater stuff and that kind of thing. And that's the part that I know I can bring already. So, like, the promos are my favorite part.
Yeah. Well, it shows. It definitely shows. So you have a bit of like a musical theater background, that sort of thing, or are we just talking high school, or did you pursue it beyond that?
It's the theater and musical theater was mainly high school. Like music and stuff is something that's gone beyond that. Like I've studied it and that kind of stuff. But the actual kind of like theater part, the acting type thing, that's something that was mainly high school, and like kind of beyond it a little bit, but not far.
Yeah, well, it definitely shows. And like I said, your promos and stuff, I definitely get that whole, like, I feel like you understand the character and you put the character in these situations, like the vlog where you're telling a story about going shopping and, or you know, finding these boots online or whatever it was. And I do. I'm like, someone shut this woman up. Like, can we get this done, please? Can someone beat her? And so you're doing a real good job and I'm a big fan of it. But at the same time, on the other hand, your social media presence at times makes me go, can someone please hug this girl? You talk a lot about your battles with mental health, body positivity, all that sort of stuff. Why is it so important for you to sort of put all that out there?
Because there was a time where I didn't, and it took a big toll on me. I've struggled with mental health issues for a very, very long time, and this goes back to like decades. Like, I've had a lot of issues growing up. Like from family perspective and that kind of stuff. And it got to a point where I would want to talk about stuff, but I wasn't allowed to because I would be told that I was sort of like looking for attention and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I would take it out on myself, and I would like kind of hide behind this like little. I like behind this little goth girl that was just like kind of like not talking to anyone, not doing anything, and not having many friends. And I think social media has kind of become that little voice that, and it's because it's online. You don't necessarily have to look at the people in the eye when you say, "Hey, I'm struggling," and you don't get the judgment like straight up going, really, I don't really want to hear it. Like whether or not you want to hear it, that's for you to take in or not.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
No, definitely. I mean, I talk about my struggles with anxiety, with depression, and all that sort of thing on the podcast as well. Like I took a couple of weeks off recently just for some self-care, and I was very open about it on the podcast. Like I just talk about like, you know, this is what's happening, and you know, it's a real thing. These things happen, and I have to take care of myself. So this has fallen by the wayside, that sort of thing. And like, I'm very open about it. And I do know, because I've been there in that situation where you're telling people face to face, sometimes even people that you care about or you think care about you. And you see the look in the eyes of just like, oh, okay, here we go kind of thing. So I know, sitting here talking into this microphone, I know there are people out there listening going, oh, here we go. But at the same time, I'll then also get messages from people just being like, hey man, hope everything's okay, rah, rah, all that sort of stuff. And it's been very supportive. I find the wrestling community especially very supportive and very open to discussions on mental health.
Yeah, and I think because for a lot of people, wrestling is an outlet. Wrestling is like that kind of entertainment that lets you forget about the stuff that you have to deal with on a daily basis, or it's for especially wrestlers as well. Like how many wrestlers recently have come out and said, hey, I've struggled with mental health. And it's because wrestling is such a form of entertainment that it is an outlet.
Yeah.
So you find more people rather than not have had some sort of like reasoning as to why they need that outlet.
Yeah, so, I mean, you find it in a lot of creative fields, a lot of artistic fields. You know, like a lot of artists deal with these things, and wrestling is like objectively at this point. I don't think anyone could say it's not an art. Wrestling is an art form, and some of the people involved are incredibly creative souls, and so it sort of comes with the territory almost.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus, I think a lot of us were picked on as kids. I mean, we were wrestling.
Yeah. Well, I was picked on. I was like not for being a wrestling fan, but just yeah. But no,
you mentioned being like having the goth girl aesthetic. Were you like your emo kid in high school?
Yeah, no, I was that neck. But before I moved to New Zealand, I was like the neck level. Like I wasn't even emo. I was goth. Like the black.
Like
yeah, like would draw like little eyeliner patterns on my eyes and stuff. But mind you, this is also
like you got to be pretty hardcore to be goth in the Netherlands, right?
No,
like,
not really.
Like black metal.
Yes, yeah, because it's massive over there. Like so, more people than not. It's less looked weirdly upon. But I like here.
Right. Did you get into like the local black metal scene and stuff?
Yeah, a little bit.
Amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like I moved to New Zealand, and like I think it kind of did like, because of obviously like, you know, you're a teen and everything changes. Like I kind of went from like the goth to like the emo phase to suddenly just kind of like finding my way, and now I'm just confused.
Aren't we all though? We're all trying to find our way. That's the thing. And I think that's why it's so endearing, you know, being out there with the mental health. I mean, obviously you had the blog, the Wrestling with Anxiety, that you've been doing bits and pieces on there and stuff. And I think it's important what you're doing, and it's fantastic what you're doing. And I love seeing that as well.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the encouragement. Sometimes I actually still struggle with it, because actually, like, I do go, well, do people really need it? Do people want to hear it? But I think sometimes I just have to think about the fact that it's more for myself as well. Like, whether or not there's someone on the other side that gets the message, that would be great. But sometimes for me, I need to vent it, like, and get it off my chest, because I always take so much on, and I always overthink everything, that sometimes getting it off and getting it away from me kind of helps.
Yeah, it's a therapeutic process for you writing it, and obviously, and for anyone who finds it, I think it can be a therapeutic process going through it as well. Because always that, you know, there's always that idea that we're alone, right? And it's so weird, especially as a parent. Like, I don't know about you. I'm a stay-at-home parent. And so I have these two beautiful children who I love. And I have a partner who very much loves me. But there is an intense loneliness sometimes. And it's like, where does this come from? Like, I shouldn't feel this loneliness. But it's nice to know that there's other people out there that deal with the same things, that go through the same thoughts, that overthink everything. Everything's the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like, it's comfort.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like, I'm gonna go way over the line and say something that's quite personal. But was it last week or the week before? I was lying in bed with my husband, and I was actually like crying, like, because I was feeling absolutely horrible. Because like this is depression talking. I was lying there, and I was just like, I don't know why I feel this way, because I've got everything that I wanted. I've got an amazing husband who loves me and cares for me and looks after me. I've got a daughter that is literally the cutest thing in the world. Like, and she's so clever and fun to be around. And I've got a nice house. I've got everything I need, but I feel like I'm at a party and I don't want to be there and I want to go home. It's that, like, you know, when you're in a social situation and you don't want to be there and you want to be home, but you're already home and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, how do I fix this?
Yeah.
And like,
yeah. And then where is home, right?
Yeah.
And there's a million, and you can really spiral with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was like, does this make me suicidal? Does this make me go, wait, is the only way for me to feel like I'm home is to not be here? And I was just like, I can't do that because I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to feel like that. But it's just, that's depression. And anxiety will make me go, am I insane for feeling like this?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, for me, I've had, because I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but in Australia, you go to the doctor, you talk to the GP to go on a mental health plan, and they give you this questionnaire and these sheets and all these sorts of things, and they ask you, you know, how often do you think of suicide, right? And for me, I don't think of suicide, and I had to have this discussion with the GP. Like, this isn't even a psychologist or psychiatrist or anything. This is just the GP, and I'm talking to him, and I'm just like, I don't really think of suicide, but I do think of like just leaving. Right? Like the thought of people being better off and all that sort of thing. And these are thoughts that people have. Like, we have these thoughts. And it's never manifested itself in me as I want to die, but just so much as I don't want to be what I am, where I am, all of this sort of stuff. Right? And so it's like, so to hear you say that, like I'm at a party, like it's the perfect analogy. Like it raises more questions than it answers, but it is just the fact that you're willing to talk about these things and put these things online. Because, you know, your Twitter, you know, you're not afraid, like, because that's something I don't do. Like, I don't tweet about it when it's happening. Like, I just can't.
Oh, it's because sometimes, like, it's because sometimes I can't physically talk about it to anyone. Because often, most times, rather than not, when it happens, it's like either in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep, and or it's throughout the day. And because like you, I'm a stay-at-home parent. I don't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, so like, do I tell my 3-year-old about it? Like, no. You know,
I had a moment that made me feel awful when my son, who I was telling you before we went on air, like he's 2.5, and it was one of those moments where I was just in bed and I just couldn't bring myself. This was like when I was in the peak of the bad times a couple of weeks ago. And he came in and he was just like, Daddy sad again? And I was like, oh man. And that pushed me even further over the edge. I was just like, my kid knows I'm broken. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So we're getting really far away from the wrestling here, but do you find that the wrestling helps with that as well? And helps with that ability to be outspoken about it?
It's a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. It's some people, yes, and then there's people that are more, they think that it's kind of like a ploy for attention. But it's the people that understand it often, like how you said before, they've dealt with it themselves. And as soon as I started the wrestling with anxiety, the amount of New Zealand wrestlers and people that I know that came forward and went, hey, I would love to have a chat with you, or I'd love to, like, you know, talk to you about it, or like have an interview, that kind of stuff. I haven't even done that. Like, that shows how unorganized I am. I don't have my shit together. Sorry, I'm a bit sick still. But there's a lot of people that, you know, do support it, and there's a lot of people that in one way or another have dealt with it themselves or still deal with it themselves, and being open about it does help, because it creates friendships and a mutual understanding as like wrestlers and stuff, that you kind of it breaks down a barrier.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even as a person on the outskirts of wrestling, doing what I do, and I've had people, like I've had wrestlers and things reach out to me and just be like, "Hey, man, you coming to the show this weekend? Like, I know you're not feeling great. Maybe it can help," all that sort of stuff. And I find the community to be very supportive, which is great.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I want to go straight into another completely heavy topic. I think I will. Let's get the heavy stuff out of the way before we get back to talking about fun stuff like the chili challenge, which I've got sitting here waiting for us to talk about. There was a situation with you, though, calling out abuse in the locker room.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you tell us about that? Because obviously it's something that happens, and not enough people talk about it, I find.
It's definitely something that happens more often than not. A lot of people kind of fear speaking out about it, because obviously, like, as soon as it's someone that has any type of control in any company, it can ruin your career. It can ruin your relationship with the company. It can ruin you from getting booked. It can kill everything. So I don't blame people for not speaking up. It took me a long time to actually say something anyway. Like, it went on for quite a while before I was like, wait. And it was only because it was a tweet by someone else that was like, hey, do you have an example of something that happened? And I was like, wait, like, yeah, how about this and this? And it was more like, I didn't name the person because I was just like, I don't know if I can. And then kind of like a ball started rolling, and I actually found out that hey, it's okay. I can actually talk about this. Like, it's not going to ruin anything for me. It's going to be okay, because obviously, like, what he did was not right, and like overstepping all sorts of boundaries. And he wasn't even like in charge of anything. He was a guy that was kind of like in charge of training. Well, he shouldn't have been in the first place, because he'd only been like wrestling himself for 3 years. And to be honest, like, when I've been wrestling for two and a bit years now, and I'm like nowhere near ready to teach anyone anything. Yeah. But it got to a point where he saw himself as being much more important than he was, and started taking privileges, and started taking things and just going, hey, well, you're a rookie, therefore you should do what I'm telling you. And even if it made me uncomfortable, or if it was completely inappropriate, I was just like, well, you're telling me, like, you're the one that's in charge here, so I should probably listen to you, and I should probably do what you're saying. It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Now, even with people, like, within the New Zealand scene, I've found out that some people are, like, not as great as you think they are. But I think that's with everyone. Everybody's got, their ways of being, I guess. I don't know. I'm rambling.
It's fine. It's fine. It's a difficult thing, and it's something where I've heard, again, being on the fringes, I hear things from people about this person or that person. I hear this story or that story, and I want I want there to be a light shone on these situations more, because there is a lot of fear about speaking up, but. Yeah. But I think that if people do speak up, there's going to be a lot more support than you think. Because, like, as a fan, I don't want to support people that are taking privileges, as you put it, right? I don't want to buy that person's shirt. I don't want to go to a show where that person is wrestling. And I think that there's a lot of fans that feel that way, and a lot of people who would support things that speak out. So it's sort of one of those things where they're not my stories to tell, but I want to try to encourage people to speak up. Not necessarily on my podcast either. Like, I'm not saying come on my show and name names. It's going to be great for ratings. Like, I just want the wrestling scene to be safer and better for everyone.
Yeah,
totally. And so it's one of those things where, like, would you encourage others to speak out in the same way?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think your own personal safety is more important than a fun time at a wrestling show. Or like, your own personal safety and your own mental health is more important than your perception of how others see you. Because that's mainly what people are worried about. It's like it's what's going to happen to me. Like, what are they going to say about me? You know, I've seen situations where words get twisted or people get blacklisted for speaking up because someone's a friend of someone, you know, and someone in higher power has decided that, you know, what she said, like whether it's true or not, he's my friend, therefore I will take his side and you can just go away. You know, so like people like it makes people scared to speak up, but your own personal mental health and your own well-being is more important than anything.
Yeah, and it's important to have your story heard,
yeah,
I feel.
Yeah.
And there will be people out there that will support. So yeah, thank you for that. Because when I read the Bronco Busters piece about, you know, that you did speak out about it and stuff, I was like, that's fantastic. We need more of that. We need people who are willing to shine a light on abuse that happens, you know, because it's not on. It's not okay. And as fans, we don't want to support it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So, but bringing it back to the fun stuff, the chili challenge. What were you thinking? I watched this video on your Facebook where you ate just an entire, was it the California Reaper pepper, right?
Yeah, it was actually surprisingly easy. Like I thought it was going to be.
Didn't look it.
I thought it was going to be so much worse, but like it was doable. Like I would do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But,
see, I was thinking because you did it when you got to a certain amount of followers, right?
Yeah. It was like a 500 follower.
What's the next goal?
I don't know. I've kind of changed my mindset a little bit on what my goals are. It's not necessarily about the amount of followers that I have or like however popular I want to get. It's more about just me getting to do me. Like, you know, I was like, if I get to tell my story, I was like, if it's one other person there, like if I literally have one follower, that's fine. I don't care anymore. Because I used to be like really quite obsessed with, you know, like I've just lost 2 followers or like crap. Like I want to have more followers than this person, or I want to be, you know, I want to be on par with certain people that I look up to. And I was just like, you know what? It's my journey. I shouldn't be so obsessed with like, you know, what people think of me on social media. But at the same time, like, you know,
it's very easy to obsess over.
Yeah,
though
it
is very easy to obsess over the minutia. I've never done it with my personal, but with like the B+ account, I did go through a phase where I was just like, you obsess over every little shift in the number.
Yeah. No, it's really easy to do that, and like this is something that's only quite recent that I'm like, you know what? Nah, I'll just put the content that I want to put out there, and whatever comes from it is great. You know. If I can get someone commenting going, hey, like, I hope you have a good day. And I'm like, yay, cool, thanks. You too. You know, that's perfectly fine for me. You know, it's for me,
awesome.
I value quality over quantity. Like, I'd rather have one person go, hey, looking forward to your match, rather than having 20 people go, oh my gosh, you're so cool, or oh my gosh, you're hot. Like, that kind of stuff. I'm like,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You want quality of interaction, even on social media. Do you get the haters?
I've had my fair share of people that, you know, tell me I have a horse face and that kind of stuff, and I'm like, okay, cry a little bit, and then I'm like, ugh, whatever.
Yeah, because I know you're friends with Candy, and I see some of the hate that she gets on Twitter and stuff, and I think the way she handles it is amazing. Like, she just tends to laugh it off, from what I can see, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, like I'm sure.
I always wonder how people handle hate online.
Like I'm sure that it like she does an amazing job with dealing with it online. I'm sure that sometimes it must be quite rough for her as well. But no, she's nailing it, like doing really well. She's also, I think, she's getting a lot more love as well, rather than just hate, which is probably helping her deal with it as well. And I'm quite glad that that's happening.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so she's been carrying the torch for women's wrestling in New Zealand, but you like to refer to yourself as the future of New Zealand women's wrestling. How is women's wrestling in New Zealand? Because, like I said, still getting my head around New Zealand as a whole. It looks like there's maybe a handful.
It's small.
Yeah,
it's very small. Yeah, it's very, very small. There's not a lot of us. So, we're desperately needing more women in New Zealand wrestling.
Yeah,
Desperately needing more women.
So, any girls out there in New Zealand listening to this, go out and train.
Please come train. Because obviously, like, you see people like Candy Lily, and Ashley Spencer, like, taking strides, and, you know, they're going to go overseas, and they're leaving us behind to, like, kind of hold the fort, and it kind of turns into oh crap, there's only, like, so many of us, like, we need more. Yeah, like, Ashley Spencer's, heading off to Australia, which breaks my heart. She was my first ever match. So I will always have a special place for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know...
Come over here anytime soon?
To Australia?
Yeah.
I'm going on a trip in October. It's not necessarily to wrestle or have any bookings, but I just have friends and I want to watch wrestling. Because last year my husband went over and he got to see Underworld and MCW, and
nice.
He came home raving about it. And my friend, she was like, "Oh, hey, in October there's, like, some cool stuff going on. Like, do you want to come?" And I was like, "Oh my god, yes!" So I was like, you know, whether or not I have any bookings or anything that happen, I would not necessarily know whether or not I'm ready for international bookings, just because I'm a bit like I want to make sure that what I do is good. Yeah. And I want to make sure that if I do debut overseas, that, you know, I'm not the level of, like, the rookie that I am. You know,
it's not overseas though. I mean, look, you guys are the extra state to Australia. Let's be real. we claim all the good ones, right? Like, you think we don't just secretly refer to Candy Lee as an Australian professional wrestler? Of course we do, right? She's one of ours.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
You're one of ours. To come over. And what are the dates that you're here? If there's any promoters listening to this in Melbourne, you know, they can give you a call.
It'll be from the 9th until the 15th of October.
Right. So there you go. So any Melbourne promoters listening to this, slide into the DMs, give Lily Faye a shot, because I feel like that might be a little bit of the anxiety talking, right?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, it is. It's the anxiety talking. The way you're going to grow is by working everywhere and everyone. Like, get it, boo.
Yeah. You know, you're right. I need to stop hating myself so much.
Yeah, it's all about the self-talk. Like, all about the self-talk. You can do
like,
it.
Last weekend I had a match with Tarly, and I had such a blast. It was so much fun.
Yes.
Like, besides the fact that I was sick and I had no voice, it was amazing because she took the piss out of me. It was hilarious. But I had such a good time, and I'm like, I like to think that she did too.
Yeah, well, Tali's fantastic. Tali's fantastic.
Yeah, she's such a great wrestler.
She's wonderful, and she trained with Seth Rollins and all that, like, recently, and so that's what I mean. Like, being able to work with people who have done things that you haven't had the chance to do, and that's going to happen if you try to take bookings while you're in Melbourne. So I'm glad we got the dates out there. Yeah, because hopefully it'd be good to see you while you're over here. It'd be good to see you get on a show. I'm pulling for you.
Yeah, no, like, that's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
What are some of your goals though with wrestling? Like, where do you see it taking you? Where do you want it to go?
Like, I don't want to go to WWE because it's just not my dream. I don't feel like being on the road as much will do me personally any good. I think for me, like, the ultimate like dream would be to maybe work Stardom for a little while.
Right, do a couple of tours.
Do a couple of tours with Stardom. Maybe do, like, a tour in Europe, just because I'm from Europe, and it would be, like, a freaking awesome thing for me to wrestle in the Netherlands one day.
Yes,
just because, you know, it's my home turf. But I think for me, my goals are more to just be good and have fun.
Right.
Just make friends, have fun. It's for me, it's a passion. It's not like I need to do this or else I'm not going to achieve what I want to, you know?
Yeah,
I have my little family at home that I prioritize over everything.
Hmm.
You know, and wrestling is kind of second to that.
Yeah, which I think is great. Like it's good to talk to someone else who has that, because when I first started training up in Sydney, and I stopped training when my daughter was born, because I was like, I don't want to get hurt. I want to be around for. Yeah. I want to be able to walk, like, you know, just in case. I was like, the risk isn't worth it for me because the family is the most important thing to me, right? And everyone's got their different things. Yeah. And I feel like if I'd been wrestling for 5 years already at that point when she was born, I'd probably be like, I know what I'm doing. But it was different. But when I was training, I was always the guy who I was like, I don't have any goal. Like, I'm 25 starting this. I don't have any goal to get to WWE. I don't have any goal to get to Japan. Like, I just want to have fun doing this and make new friends, right? Now I do it through podcasting, but it's good to know that there's other people, like, because we need our weekend warriors as well. And I know exactly. that can be a derogatory term, but as long as you're actually trying to be the best that you can be for the time that you're in there, that's what matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I would love to be able to travel like every other weekend. Like, I'll go to places like Melbourne all the time, and go to Sydney, and you know, it's definitely something that I would freaking love doing.
Yeah,
but it's not that it's going to be the end of my life if I don't make it. You know?
Yeah, but so like WWE and full-time wrestler, that's not necessarily the goal. But being able to have a little bit of extra income doing this on weekends and getting to see, you know, the region, maybe, you know, Australia, Southeast Asia, like, that's a pretty good goal.
Yeah, because like, for me, I see what WWE travel schedules are like. I love being at home with my family too much to be able to be gone almost like 300 and something days out of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's too much. And it's exhausting. I imagine having to travel back and forth, like from one end to the world to back to America to friggin' China, back to America within like less than a week. No.
Yeah, and then throw in media days and all that sort of stuff. It takes a very special kind of person to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know for myself that I'm not that kind of person.
Right. Who are some of the people that you want to work with as well in the scene? Because you said you want to come over to Melbourne, you want to come over to Sydney, you want to do all that. Who are some of the people in the Australian wrestling scene that are like your goals to work with?
Oh, my goals to work with in the Australian scene. Oh my gosh, Avery. Holy crap.
Yes.
Avery.
She's in Japan at the moment. She's doing the 5-star.
No. Have you seen some of the footage? She looks like she's nailing it over there. She looks amazing.
Absolutely.
It's her. I've always wanted to. This is like people I've got shirts off, and I'm like fangirling over seeing people like Indy Hartwell.
Nice.
Kellyanne, Madison Eagles. Oh my gosh. There's so many.
My personal favorite Australian professional wrestler is Shazza McKenzie. So.
Oh yes, I've met her before. Yeah, she's amazing. Like, no, yeah, she strikes me like she's one of those people that is just amazing, and she's gonna go places, and she's already been places. I still wait for the day that she's gonna just be in full-time NXT.
Oh yeah, well, see, no, I'm waiting for her to show up on AEW. That's where I think. I think she's gonna end up. To be honest with you. Because we know that like when World Series Wrestling do their tours, like she wrestled Brandy and stuff, and Cody and Brandy had very good things to say about her at meet and greets with some friends of mine. So I'm like, I reckon she's going to end up in AEW.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Like, I wish her all the amazing things.
You want to get a match with Shazza in before she gets signed inevitably. Yeah.
Yes, of course. There's so many, like Lux. I wish I could like team up with Lux. That would be like the best thing. To just be part of their tag team and just be. I
feel like you guys would work really well together. The promo video would be incredible because the videos they're putting out are amazing.
So good. Like, they're currently like the best promo cutters in Australia at the moment, in my opinion. Well, them and Rat Daddy.
Yes, Rat Daddy. Well, and Matty Wahlberg too, though. You can't discount the 21st Century Success Story. His whole stint on Survivor was basically a promo. It's amazing.
Pretty much, wasn't it?
Yeah, but yeah. So there's a lot for you to sink your teeth into here in Australia, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like there's so there's so much talent in Australia compared to here. There's so many good wrestlers. There's great wrestlers in New Zealand. Don't get me wrong. Like there's heaps of them. But for obviously as a woman, there's a handful of women that you can wrestle in New Zealand, of which I've probably had most of them. And then suddenly Australia, there's all these people that are so much better than me that have been around for decades, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Does it get to a point as well, where you're working the same people so often? What about intergender wrestling in New Zealand? I get the impression New Zealand is maybe a little bit more conservative than here as well, at least in some areas. But is there much push for intergender wrestling over there?
There's a little bit. I'm gonna totally I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. Intergender wrestling.
Be controversial.
Okay.
Get that heat.
No, this is not necessarily controversial. It's just whether or not I'm scooping too much, and saying too much before it's been announced.
Yeah.
You might know, here in Hamilton, there's no current wrestling company running, and we're starting up in November. And that's Heathen Combat, and our company is actually going to be straight up intergender. There's no women's belts. There's no men's belts. It's literally just a championship belt, and everyone can face for it. But there's lots of other there's quite a bit of intergender wrestling in New Zealand. There's I think it's more company to company.
Right.
Some companies are more open to it. They're just kind of whatever, and then other companies are a bit more conservative, and they're a bit more oh, I don't know whether or not we want to do this, or yeah. I think it just depends. It's purely situational, really.
So that's good, because that means that you'll have more people to work with, right? Because that's the thing that especially in scenes where there's not as many women wrestling, having intergender just opens up the world for you guys.
Well, yeah, it allows you to work with different styles of wrestling. It allows you to work with, for me especially, I'm in New Zealand. I'm one of the bigger girls. Not that I'm huge or anything, but I'm not tiny. I'm tall. I'm a bit heavier, a bit more stocky. For me, working with a guy means that I get to pull out all the the flippy moves and all the kind of cruiserweighty typey stuff that I really enjoy doing, but I won't be able to do with most women because obviously I'm bigger than them.
Yeah, so with
so
other
for me,
women,
it opens up a whole new world of I can do all my hurricane runs and that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
it's definitely
amazing.
For me, it's way fun because it means that I get to do stuff like that.
Awesome. And so Heathen Combat, is that what you said it was called?
Yes, Heathen Combat.
So that's one to look out for. I'm looking forward to it. Now, before I let you go, I do want to ask the final thing. What do you have coming up, and where can people find you online to follow all the goodness that is Lily Faye's social media?
Well, Lily Faye. Well, at Lily Faye on Twitter, obviously. Yep. I've got Wrestling with Anxiety. It's easy to find through my Twitter as well. I've got a Facebook page, which is also Lily Faye. I think it's Lily Faye Wrestling. Oh gosh, I don't know my own social media.
No one knows their Facebook handle. That's fine. If you search Lily
I know.
Faye,
It's yeah. I'm easy to find. Heathen Combat is launching in November, which is my husband's company, which I'm really excited about. There's some exciting matchups coming and some special people coming down for that show as well. There may or may not be a certain match that people might be excited for. Between me,
bit of a tease.
Between me and a certain someone, who said that she'd be back, and I've got my trip obviously coming up to Melbourne. I'm everywhere in New Zealand, so I'll probably be at Capital Pro Wrestling. I'm at Capital Pro Wrestling this weekend. Yeah, coming up, going down to Wellington. Yeah, that's setting up a massive angle storyline. It's gonna be fun. Excited for that one. No, it's gonna be something that's gonna be running for quite a while. and it's going to be a big, like, quite up like an overhaul. It's going to be really fun, and there's going to be multiple people involved, so it's hard to talk about stuff when I'm really excited about it. I don't want to give away too much.
We don't want to give spoilers, but Capital Pro Wrestling, big things happening in Capital Pro Wrestling this weekend that will have implications for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
awesome.
pretty much.
And, all right. And at Lily Faye on Twitter, Facebook. You have Instagram?
Yes. I'm pretty sure that's cool. Lily Faye Wrestling, I think.
Lily Wrestling. You're very well prepared for this one, Lily.
Let me just bring it up, shall I? Yeah, it's Lily Faye Wrestling.
Lily Faye Wrestling. All right. We are professionals here.
Yeah, no, I'm not great.
I very much appreciate your time and coming on the show, Lily. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be on your show. Really appreciate it.
So there you have it, Lily Faye, ladies and gentlemen, the future of New Zealand women's wrestling. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciated the chat. It's always nice to talk to someone else who's going through, the mental health issues, I found out during that chat that Lily Faye, she got into wrestling the same as me, just looking at it like, I just want to have fun with this and sort of like, I still want to be great, but I don't necessarily want to get to a place where I'm doing this full time as a living. This is a hobby. And I think that's awesome. I think it's great. And I'm looking forward to seeing more Lily Faye. Hopefully Lily Faye can get booked out on our shores. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of her in the future. Her promos are fantastic. Seriously, the promo that we referenced there, where she's talking about shopping online and buying some Ugg boots, and someone else bought those Ugg boots before she could, and so now she wants to smash some faces. Like, it's a great promo. She really understands that Valley Girl character, and I'm a big fan. Check out Lily Faye if you haven't seen her before. Get around her Facebook and stuff. Check out the promo videos because she is fantastic. I'm a big fan. And if you liked that interview and you like other Aussie Grappler interviews, this week's a good one for you. You got to check out On the Turnbuckle, Anna Ashley, of course, the resident interviewer for EPW for MCW, also known as Brigitte in Wrestle Rock. She has some great stories to tell. Also talking about, her controversial tweets. It was controversial for me because she said that this season of Glow was fantastic. I was less of a fan of this season of Glow. We've recorded a Glow podcast. It's coming out. You can check that out. But if you want to hear her thoughts on Glow season 3 and why she posted those tweets and what have you, you want to check out On the Turnbuckle this week. Anna Ashley having a chat with our friends there in Melbourne. And meanwhile, our friend in Queensland, Wrestle Radio Australia, back this week with Sam Osborne, who was, of course, one of my people to watch in 2019, wrestlers you may not have heard of. I can't remember the time. Wrestlers you may not have heard of. Wrestlers you may not have heard of, but should be paying attention to in 2019 because they wrestle good and do other stuff good too. Sam Osborne was one of those guys. God, it's a mouthful, and I keep forgetting what it was. Anyway, Sam Osborne was one of my picks for those, and he's also been one of Toddy's picks for a while. Toddy's looking at Sam Osborne, and I know he's been wanting to talk to Sam Osborne for a while, so it's really good to hear an interview with Sam Osborne on Wrestle Radio Australia. Definitely check that out. But this weekend, if you want to know where to go to support the boys and girls of Australian wrestling in Western Australia on Saturday night, New Horizons Pro Wrestling, Guardians of Pro Wrestling is at the Cockburn Youth Centre. Meanwhile, Western Pro Wrestling is at the Manjimup Indoor Sporting Pavilion for some all-ages wrestling action. Check out the Facebook for more details. In Victoria, on Friday and Saturday night, respectively, the Southeastern Entertainment Centre hosts PCW Slam and Ignition, and elsewhere on Saturday night, Adrenaline Pro Wrestling present Atmosphere at the Mechanics Institute. In New South Wales, on Saturday night, FWA Battle for Destiny 3 takes place at Dural Country Club. It has the aforementioned match between Xena and Nick Berry. You also have Maddie Wahlberg challenging Sam Osborne for the FWA title. It's definitely going to be a good show. Get out to that one if you are in or around Dural. Here in South Australia, my home state, it's a big one this weekend. 3 shows to get to if you can. Well, you can only get to 2 of the shows because 2 of them are running against each other. But on Friday night, Adelaide Championship Wrestling are at their home in Prospect for Evolve 24. Featuring Adam Brooks returning, champion Adam Brooks returning to the promotion. On Saturday night, we have Wrestle Rampage live at the Dojo 2 in Panorama, and in the heart of Adelaide's nightlife on Saturday at HQ, right there on Hindley Street, Riot City Wrestling. That HQ venue is one of the best wrestling venues in the country. I've said it before, I'll say it again. But they're at HQ for Key to the City. It's basically their Money in the Bank match. It's a big ladder match. Winner gets a key to unlock a title shot at the RCW champion. So if you're in Adelaide, you have to choose between Wrestle Rampage and Riot City on Saturday night, but there's no reason not to be at Adelaide Championship Wrestling on Friday night. Big weekend of wrestling for Adelaideans, and that's it. That's all I've got. Of course, there could be other shows. Check out the Facebook. Let me know if I missed anything. And that's what we're all about here. We're all about supporting the boys and girls of Australian Pro Wrestling. So get out to a show, cheer the good guys, boo the bad guys, buy a shirt, support the people doing the thing that we love. And if you want to support me and what I do here at the B+, you can do so at patreon.com/theb+. On social media, I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling will fit. The B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, 5-star review if you like what we do. And thank you so much for listening.